If you asked a random person on the street if they think cars should have as much technology as possible, they'd probably say yes. After all, no modern technology means no heated seats, no CarPlay, and no minivans are almost as fast as 60s muscle cars. But in the past few years, that technology that was once cool and convenient has ballooned into something that is simply annoying and really, really complicated. There are a ton of reasons why excessive modern tech is just a bit too extra for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we should go back to the Stone Ages. So the question remains, where do we draw the line with tech? When does it become a big old pain in the ass instead of a great luxury? Well, in order to understand this existential question, we must first figure out what parts of the car are affected by all that tech. When manufacturers started adding a ton of technology, the first thing that gets sacrificed is a reasonable price. In the olden days of the 1990s, if you wanted a bare bones, cheap daily commuter, you could buy one straight from the dealership. Unfortunately, cheap, new daily commuters are rarer than Playboi Carti albums nowadays. The average new car costs more than $45,000, which is nearly double what it was 15 years ago. Now, inflation has not made it easy for a fair comparison to be made between modern robocars and older, less advanced cars. Obviously, as everything increases in price, cars will get more expensive as well. However, if you look at the tens of thousands of dollars of expensive computer chips in modern cars, it's pretty easy to see part of what's driving prices up. And the crazy thing is, some of this technology makes it way cheaper for automakers to build cars. Touchscreens, while they may appear to be all fancy and expensive, are actually way cheaper to wire than a ton of buttons and switches. Which means automakers are really just taxing you for nothing. And unlike those mostly straightforward buttons and switches, touchscreens can make certain basic functions a real pain, which brings me to my second point. New fancy technology is just not making it easier to own and drive a car. A big part of that is due to the infotainment system. A lot of the worst designed screens hide basic features beneath a ton of menus that are only slightly easier to navigate than a relationship with a Deftones fan. Now, before people call for my head on a pike because I didn't acknowledge how confusing some German cars were with all their buttons and toggles, let me say this. While certain German companies seemingly just tossed a bunch of random switches in their cars, I can almost guarantee that whatever screens they've got nowadays are way worse and are probably a contributing factor to their customers' receding hairlines. I mean, if I had to deal with a brand new $70,000 car that pitched a fit every time I needed it to do something silly like change lanes safely, and on top of that, gate kept fun little trinkets like heated seats and high beam assist, I feel like I'd also want to tailgate student drivers and neglect the use of my turn signals. I mean, a car that acts exactly like their disobedient, disrespectful, alcoholic teenage son may be a bit too much for the mid-level exec to handle. And it's not even just the luxury brands that seem to be trying to make it impossible to do anything so goofy as turning up the air conditioning or skipping a song. Volkswagen, a relatively sensible automaker that at one point was known for their good ergonomics, has decided that touchscreen based buttons and screens are the way to go. Oh, and Volkswagen, what is this? Do we really need Siri's evil twin in our cars? For what purpose do we need AI in a car? Although, it may be kind of nice if all the functions of ChatGPT are available. That would enable a new level of procrastination. I could write my essays as I pull into the school parking lot. Now that I really think about it, that'd be pretty sweet.
It's annoying to navigate through a bunch of menus if you're trying to change something, or use ChatGPT to navigate somewhere, but none of that's really necessarily dangerous. Although, a lot of modern technologies also bake in a fun little element of danger on top of just simple annoyance.
But if you thought touchscreens were annoying, just let me show you these modern safety features. You'd think that safety technology would at least protect you on the road, even if it's making cars mind-numbingly complicated. And some of it does do its job, and doesn't interfere with regular driving too much. But I'm here to tell you that a lot of it really just makes the driving experience a whole lot worse, and in some cases more dangerous. For example, if you're driving my mom's van, 2018 Toyota Sienna, not really even that new or fancy compared to a lot of what's on dealership lots today. If you drift over any type of line over 30 miles an hour, it'll beep erratically at you and until you get back in your lane. I mean, I suppose this could be helpful, except the only time it really kicks in is when you had to pass a biker or a parked car on a tight back road. It's stressful and dangerous. Some lane keep and other driving assists only really work properly in perfect weather, which, makes sense. But if there's any sort of rain, snow, or even dirt on the sensors, it'll just stop. And that sounds bad enough, but the worst part about this is a lot of drivers are not necessarily aware of these complications and also the limits of these systems even in perfect weather. This means that they're more likely to be complacent in their driving and not realize that their little safety blanket isn't really doing its job. And while this may be a bit different than what I'm discussing here, you can see evidence of this ignorance in all those people that were getting in those nasty crashes because they thought Tesla's autopilot was a whole lot better than it actually is. And speaking of Tesla, I'd like to talk about the Cybertruck for a second. First of all, most of those people that buy them are goofy Joe Rogan listening types, but as far as being unsafe, it seems like the Cybertruck is a prime candidate. It's got all the stupid screens and driver assist and all that stuff and despite how fancy it is, I think that Elon forgot that most safer new cars have these silly little things called crumple zones. So I bet that getting in a wrecking one would feel like sitting in John Bonham's kick drum. And also, the super advanced bulletproof windows would make it nearly impossible for emergency crews to get to anyone locked inside the car. Also, up until now, I've been discussing safely mostly in regards to the person driving. But what about the pedestrian safety element of this big stainless steel triangle? Well, I feel like Tesla couldn't have made it more dangerous for the pedestrians if they tried. It's almost like they designed this specifically to give jewel card attendants even more nightmares about their job. In the end, the Cybertruck is the most obvious example of an automaker that knows that they can just trade on gimmicks and hype and still make a crap ton of money. And honestly, that kind of sums up most of the modern car industry. But that's enough about Elon's demon child. Let's get back on track, literally. Okay, so up until now, I've talked about how technology affects practical things like price and safety. But what about how it affects what most of you believe is the most important part of car ownership, which would be having fun in your car? There are some technologies that make cars a bit more enjoyable. Despite what certain older folk may say, if you want to drive somewhere and have a good time, modern technology like fuel injection make cars a whole lot more fun by bringing them a little bit more reliability. However, by and large, technology is making cars heavier and faster, which dampens the fun a bit. And if you're asking me, well, real fast, how does a faster car, how is that less fun? I mean, I'll be the first person to say that I like going fast. But it's a whole lot more fun, I feel like, to drive a slower car at its limit than drive a fast car at its limit and, commit a felony. You know what I mean? Anyways, if you're looking for a pure, enjoyable driving experience, lightweight and decent power are the way to go anyways. That's what makes cars like the Miata and GTI so enjoyable to drive. As more technology is added, they just get heavier, which makes them less responsive and just not as fun to drive. While automakers try to offset this with more power and some suspension and drivetrain wizardry, that really mostly just ends up making the car feel more disconnected from the road and driver, and again, less fun to drive. With all that being said, how much technology is too much? If you've made it this far, you may think I sound a bit like one of those older, slightly overweight fellows that insist the 350 small block is way better in every way than the LS platform. Well, I'm here to say that that's simply not the case. I do believe that technology is a very important part of the auto industry, and that innovation is pretty much the backbone of car culture. But an excessive use of fancy technology, especially regarding infotainment systems, can create cars that are increasingly dangerous, complicated, and unreliable. So what exactly is the perfect balance? I feel like if you want a comfortable daily driver, most cars from the mid-2010s are a decent option. They're really mostly nothing special, but they all have basic modern conveniences without the a random assorted doohickeys that are more common now. Now, if you want a fun car, the 90s and early 2000s are the era for you. Obviously, this is pretty subjective, but most of these cars are advanced enough that they'll start most of the time and won't send you up to heaven if you get in an eeny-weeny little fender bender. And they don't have the extra weight and screens that plague new cars. But I feel like my dear viewers may have more diverse opinions than I do, so please tell me exactly what you think in the comments section and what exactly you think is the best balance between technology and a lack of technology, and why the cars built 10 years before you were born are the best. Also, I know I don't have an upload schedule, so for all three people that are actually excited for the next Real Fast video, I promise I'll try to be a bit quicker with my uploads. Anyways, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next video.